A new chapter last night in one of the more unlikely tales that we have seen really in recent Big Ten basketball history. I, off the top of my head, cannot think of another one that is more unlikely. Northwestern just keeps on winning, Trey.
Yeah, I got to say first, I'm kicking myself this morning because I woke up feeling good this morning and I was ready to get to my closet and get my purple tie because from here on out, I might be wearing purple down the stretch for the rest of the way. And so I realized I left it at dry cleaning, so I had to wear the blue tie. But, man, it's just been a remarkable season. You think about where they were at the end of last year, losing by 30 to Iowa in the Big Ten tournament. You lose Ryan Young, you lose Pete Nance. It doesn't seem like there's hope. For them to be in second place right now is truly nothing short of remarkable.
It is. It's incredible. And I think kind of to your point, they were picked 13th place in the Big Ten. I said this on the broadcast against Purdue. They were picked 13th except for by those who picked them 14th.
Right.
And yet here they are alone in second place in the conference as we head down the final weeks here. Northwestern's win, today's big story. It was a tale of two halves in Evanston. The Cats rode a suffocating defensive effort to a 21-point first-half lead, led it by 19 at the break. Indiana came all the way back in the second half, actually tied the game in the final minutes. Trace Jackson-Davis was incredible, but Boo Buie won it with that one-hander there as the Cats took it 64-62. They have now won 7 of their last 9. Let's break it down from the perspective of both of these teams, Trey. You got to start with the Wildcats. They just figure out a way to win. I mean, this was not a pretty win. It honestly wasn't a pretty win on the offensive side in the first half. I'm missing a ton of open threes where, honestly, you look at it at halftime, we were saying this in the studio. I mean, they could have been up 25 or 30 points had they hit some open threes, but the defense was suffocating in the first half, and then they figured out a way. I mean, Chris Collins said in the postgame, this is probably a game we don't win a year ago, but they figured out a way to win it.
Yeah, I mean, it's maturity. You have veteran guards. You have guys that are completely bought into the system. But it was interesting for me how Indiana started this game playing defensively. I mean, they basically allowed Northwestern to shoot any type of three-pointer that they wanted, right? They were going under every single ball screen or handoff. They're allowing Robbie Barron to kind of get free in pick-and-pop situations. And so it was just a matter of Northwestern knocking down shots, and they did at certain points, they didn't at other points, but you mentioned it, it's Northwestern's defense. I mean, their ability to post-trap. I mean, I've watched a lot of college basketball over the course of my life. I don't think I've ever seen a team trap the post as effectively and rotate out of it the way that Northwestern does. And I thought from Indiana's standpoint, I think the adjustment that they made in the second half was really good because they did a better job of having Trace Jackson-Davis farther away from the basket. Yeah. I think in the first half, to have him so close to the block, it kind of puts him into a dead zone, right, where the trap comes, he can't really see out of it, and he's not in a good position to make plays out of the post. I thought Mike Woodson did a really good job in the second half of kind of having him in short roll situations, extending him into those like farther out post-ups where he could kind of read the double team. But I mean, Indiana's first half offense was, really poor, honestly. 6 field goals, 6 turnovers, no 3-point field goals made. It just didn't seem like they could get into offense. But they stormed back, did a really good job of, kind of making that adjustment, and give Northwestern a ton of credit too. I mean, they made the push. There's a lot of Indiana fans in the arena. It's starting to feel like the momentum is in Indiana's favor. And then they just did a really good job of staying poised and taking care of the basketball. Because even though Northwestern was missing shots, they did a really good job of taking care of the basketball, getting a shot attempt. Because if you turn the basketball over while a team is making a run, that allows them to get out in transition, get easy threes. And I just want to say something, too, about the last possession for Boo Buie. I got to give a shout-out to Taylor Battle because in that last possession, the game is tied, all the marbles are on the line, and Taylor Battle was on the sideline telling you, because at first they were in a 1-4 flat where you have two guys on the one guy on the baseline, one guy in the short corner, and then you have two guys on each side. He told Chase Audige to go to the left side of the floor so that Boo Buie could get to his strong right hand and get to his floater in that last possession. So I got to give Taylor Battle a shout out in that situation because he kind of made an in-game call when the game was on the line, knowing his brother, knowing what, his strong hand, what his go-to patent move was down the stretch in that game. But overall, great performance by the Northwestern, a historic season.
I really would give a ton of credit, too, to Buie. And it's interesting, you talk about, obviously, Taylor Battle, assistant coach, right, and his brother. So no one knows his game better than he does. But that felt like a play where last year Bowie would have settled
Right.
for a 3. And he's, for all of the remarkable things he does, he is not a great three-point shooter. I mean, he's a hair under 30%, I believe, for the year. He's outstanding from two-point range. Has gotten so much better as a finisher this year. So to kind of understand where your strengths are and to get to them, again, it speaks to his evolution and his maturity and why he has become one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, he was one of the worst in the paint shooters in the country a season ago. And it was almost kind of flip-flop where he shot the ball pretty well from the perimeter, but he couldn't make a shot in the paint. I mean, he shot around 30% inside the paint. And so that's something that he addressed and worked on this summer, being able to finish, being able to create, understanding that teams are going to try to pressure him. You know, he doesn't have a great size advantage. I mean, he's 6'1", 6'2", doesn't have tremendous athleticism. So just understanding, look, teams are going to try to pressure me, try to knock me off. And he did a good job this offseason, and, you know, talking to him as well, being able to finish in the paint, finish through contact, you know, finish with both hands. And I think that's opened up his game, even though his inability right now to knock down threes. Another thing, too, he's getting to the foul line more. I mean, he's one of the leaders in the Big Ten in getting to the foul line. And so it's just opened up his game. And it's just remarkable, I think, overall, to see that this Northwestern team in general, right, can win games as guys are kind of struggling from the three-point line. I mean, you talk about Robbie Barron went 2 from 11 from three-point range. Ty Berry hasn't shot the ball incredibly consistent this year, but their ability to win games and have guys continue to try to find their rhythm on the offensive end has just been that much more remarkable.
No doubt. If they're hitting shots, I mean, they become very difficult to beat just because of the way that they play defensively. Again, they haven't really hit them here in these last 2 games against Purdue or Indiana, but have figured out a way to win the game. So it speaks to all of the other things they're doing well. You mentioned the turnovers. They had one that was very costly at the end that nearly cost them the game on the inbounds play there in the closing 45 seconds or so. But also the free throw shooting, and this is something that has really changed with Northwestern, because this is a team that did not get to the line very much at all in recent years. They, going into the game yesterday, so I guess as it was the only game, this still remains the case, there's no team in conference play that has shot more free throws than Northwestern, which is just crazy to think. And they made 14 of 14, so you can't do much better than that. So kind of where can you get, I don't want to call them hidden points, but where can you get production if you're not shooting the ball well from the outside? And that's one of the places. Yeah,
and another thing, too, I mean, they're getting a lot of those fouls by just being smart, right? Because they're getting a lot of those fouls when teams are in the bonus. And that's a sign of a veteran team, right? Understanding, okay, the opposing team has 7 or 8 fouls. We're struggling to knock down a 3. We're struggling to get offense. Let me drive hard to the paint, maybe sell it a little bit, and then force the referee's hands. Okay, now I knock those 2 free throws down. And then it's kind of it's a turn of events. Now all of a sudden, the next time I get a shot, an open 3-point shot, I'm able to knock that down because I've seen the ball go in 2 times from the free throw line. So I think it's just the veteran poise, playing Big Ten basketball is a big part of that, why they're getting to the free throw line more.
It's been a pretty remarkable run here. Just to run through some of the accomplishments, 10 Big Ten wins, just the 4th time ever. 4 wins over ranked teams, the first time they have ever done that. A 2nd straight win over a ranked IU team. They had lost the previous 25. I do want to get a quick thought on the Hoosiers, and you kind of mentioned, I mean, here's the remaining schedule for Northwestern, and we'll get to Northwestern in a moment with that schedule. I do want to get another quick thought on what you make of IU here. You talked about the defensive effort in the first half and that it left a lot to be desired and how they changed things up here in the second half. As you assess Indiana right now at this moment and kind of the struggles that they have had on the road, they have not been great away from home. What do you attribute that to? Like, what can you address? What can you assess with that?
I think just the fact that how much they miss Xavier Johnson. I mean, for better or worse, I mean, he's obviously kind of a firecracker in terms of, you know, being able to make great plays at some times and make some questionable plays at other times. But his ability that they're missing right now to kind of get into the paint, find shooters, to kind of be another option, a guy that they can go through. They miss a ton. I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino is a great talent, but the fact that he's having to play 34, 35 minutes per game at the point guard position as a freshman in the Big Ten. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-star, right? I mean, that's a lot of minutes to log on the road with teams pressuring you, keying in on you, kind of being one of the only guys on your team on the perimeter that can make plays. And also, I think with Trace Jackson Davis, how much is on his shoulders right now?
A lot.
It's a lot on his. I mean, they're going to him almost every single play. And then on the other end, he's having to guard pick and roll situations. And so he's playing 36 minutes. He's having to play
39 last
30,
night.
Right. 39 last night.
He killed for 36.
right. I mean, the fact that they took him out even for a few minutes or for that 1 minute is just crazy. I mean, but just the fact that he has to get every post up, he has to have double teams coming at him pretty much on every single possession. And then on the other end, he has to guard pick and rolls, hard hedge, be able to contain guys like Boo Buie, be able to guard the post. That's a lot for a player. And so I think guys like Tamar Bates, Trey Galloway, Miller Kopp, those guys are going to have to step in and be able to create off the dribble a little bit, even though it's not technically their game.
It's interesting to think about kind of the balancing act with TJD and how much you play him. I mean, he's so good. Right. Taking him off the floor just seems insane, and yet he is logging a ton of minutes, and we'll see. I mean, as you get to March, who knows? But, man, he's just phenomenal. 23 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, so he's close to a triple-double. Let's take a look at that Northwestern schedule now. Just do want to assess them going forward. And we talked about it. Chris Collins said last night they're into the NCAA tournament. I think it's hard to argue with that, and we can talk about some of their numbers here. This is a really difficult slate. We've discussed it many times on this show, how challenging what they have ahead is. I think the truth of the matter, though, is probably they could lose all 5 and still make it. I'm not saying they're going to lose all 5. I don't know why anyone would say that, but it is a challenging slate here. This still feels like, though, with everything they've accomplished, it's clearly at this point an NCAA tournament team. Yeah, for sure. I think that for the mindset for the Wildcats, why not try to go win the league? Even though if that's not a realistic maybe goal, why not try to go for it? You have the tiebreaker over Purdue. You're 2 games back. Obviously, you got a tough schedule, but so does Purdue. I mean, Purdue has some tough teams. They got to go on the road and play against Maryland. They got to play at Wisconsin. They got to play Illinois. And so, I mean, there's a chance that they could lose 2 of those games down the stretch here and go 3-2. And so why not try to win all those games, put yourself in position to go 5-0 and possibly win the league? Because I think if you think right now, all right, we're an NCAA tournament team, we're good, I think that is how you kind of snowball and start to lose 2, 3, 4 games in a row. So I think the mindset right now for this Wildcats team is let's not be satisfied, let's be hungry, let's try to give ourselves a chance to go win the league. Why not? They have 7 Quad 1 wins and 6 road wins. The power conference teams that have done that are Northwestern, Alabama, Purdue, and Kansas. Wow. I mean, that is really remarkable. It's crazy to see where they are in the seedings. And I understand the bracketologists are simply following the guidance. So I'm not in any way suggesting the bracketologists are getting it wrong. But the guidance is kind of absurd. I mean, to use predictive metrics like who did you play and who did you beat? And they have some incredible wins so far this year. And again, a resume that stacks up in some ways, by some measures, with anyone in the country. They did not play a tough non-conference schedule. They did a few things where you can understand knocking them down a notch or two, but their accomplishments are pretty remarkable. Congratulations to Illinois' Terrence Shannon Jr., named one of the top 10 national finalists for the Jerry West Award, given to the nation's best shooting guard. Shannon, the leading scorer for the Illini, 6th in the conference in his first year in Champaign after transferring from Texas Tech. That's a nice jumping off point for our discussion of the top shooting guards in the conference. So by that measure, Trey, if Terrence Shannon Jr. is the only one on that list from the Big Ten, the assessment of that committee is that he is the best 2 guard in the league. Do you agree with that? Absolutely. I mean, it's 100%. I mean, he's averaging 17 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He does a good job of getting downhill, finding teammates. Even though he doesn't get the assists a lot of times, he'll get the hockey assist of kind of initiating that offense. And what I love about Terrence Shannon Jr. is even when his 3-point shot isn't falling, he's able to still be effective on the offensive end by doing 2 things. Getting to the free throw line. He shot 160 free throws this year. That's first amongst guards in the Big Ten. And then also getting out in transition. He averages 5 transition points per game, which is beyond first in the Big Ten this season as well. And so even when his jump shot's not falling, he's able to still be effective, utilize his size and strength
to be effective for this Illini team.
He is really good when he gets going downhill.
Yeah.
He's a guy you would not want to get in front of.
Absolutely not.
I would think, right? He gets ahead of Steve, and he's so big and physical. So he's number one. Who would you rank behind him?
This one might be a little bit controversial because I have like 2 and 4 almost being interchangeable, but I had Tyson Walker, and I think just because of what he's able to do on both ends of the floor, and I think more importantly, what this team is when he's not on the floor. I mean, this is a completely different team on both ends of the floor when he's not on the floor. I mean, I think about on the defensive end, which probably doesn't get talked about enough with Tyson Walker. You think about when he played against Jameer Young a couple of games ago. Jameer Young had 4 turnovers on the game. I mean, he held Cam Spencer 1 of 8. Ohio State's guards in their last game only had 14 points combined. And a lot of that has to do with Tyson Walker, his ability to pressure the basketball. But then also on the offensive end, his ability to create off the bounce, to be kind of a clutch player, a go-to guy for this team when this team desperately needs a basket. One of the only guys that can really create and get jump shots off. I think his ability to play on both ends of the floor, and you could really just see how much Michigan State misses him when he's off the floor, makes him number 2.
And we're talking about shooting guards. I mean, he's 41% from 3, right?
Right, right.
That's really good. He is a good shooter. Who are you going with at number 3?
Got to go with Chase Audige. And I mean, he hasn't shot the ball extremely well the last 5 games or so, shooting about 30% from the field. But I mean, it's undeniable that he's probably going to be the defensive player of the year. And what's so crazy is like when teams go up against Chase Audige, they have to change the way that they play on the offensive end. I mean, you have to be so cautious about what you do offensively because of his ability to get into the passing lanes, his ability to pressure the basketball. It really disrupts the flow. And it's hard to say that one player can disrupt the flow of what 5 other guys do, but that's what Chase Audige is able to do on the defensive end. And then also his ability to be clutch down the stretch. I mean, he has the ability to miss 10 shots.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I kind of had that same thing, right? And Coach Collins talks about that all the time. But then down the stretch, to have that short-term memory and be able to make clutch shots down the stretch to help your team win, I think that's why I got him at number 3.
Right. Chris Collins mentioned shooter's amnesia, I
Yes.
believe, in the postgame of the Purdue win. He is a good shooter when his feet are set and
Right.
he is square to the basket. He's really good. Some of the other stuff, right, those step backs and whatnot are not high percentage shots for him, but the defensive part's undeniable. Who's number 4?
I think it's Jet Howard. I mean, he's been up and down this season, but I mean, it's undeniable his tough shot making ability, right? I mean, he's second in the conference in contested shots made behind Seth Lundy, and his just ability to create off the bounce. He's an underrated decision maker and playmaker to be able to create kind of the same thing as Terrence Shannon Jr. Even though his assist numbers aren't high, he's able to make hockey assists and kind of initiate the offense and get downhill and provide offense for this Michigan team. But I mean, obviously, he's probably one of the better pro prospects, you know, maybe behind Chris Murray in the league. But just his ability to create off the bounce, to make shots, to be that clutch player. I mean, there's a ton of good guards in this league. And so maybe on a normal year, he might be the second best guard or third best guard, but I got him at 4.
It's hard to argue on the offensive end. The defensive end is the challenge, obviously, with him. Who are you going with at number 5? Now, I mean, there's some really good candidates here that have not been discussed, so I'm interested to know who's next.
I got to go with the hot hand, Tominaga, right? I mean, you talk about...
He's been great.
You know what's crazy, Dave? He's the 4th most efficient player in the Big Ten offensively. You think about the degree of difficulty shots that he takes, right? I mean, he's taking logo threes, you know, high degree of difficulty shots, and he's still the 4th most efficient player in the Big Ten. I mean, he's had quietly, you know, an incredible season, I think. I mean, 12 points per game, and he's more than a shooter, too. I mean, his ability to attack closeouts, get into the paint, finish around the rim, and teams are really starting to, like, have a ultimate respect for him. I mean, Caleb McConnell's guarding him, right? Chase Audige, the best defenders are no longer guarding Sam Griesel. They're guarding Tominaga. And so that just shows how well he's playing and how talented of a player he is.
He's hitting 62% from 2-point range.
Right.
That's crazy. So Connor Essegian, Andrew Funk, I mean, those guys having really good years. Fletcher Lawyer's been really good. Who would have been the next one on your list?
I think I would have. That's tough. I like Funk. I think Andrew Funk.
Like if it's shooting guard, right?
It's a shooting guard. I mean, his ability to get hot You know, I think he has more than anybody maybe in the conference ability to knock down threes and knock them down in bunches, right? Once he sees one go in, there's going to be 2, 3, and 4. And so I think I would put Andrew Funk, and I think that he's going to be the key for this Penn State team going down the stretch to make a run and make a push to maybe vie for one of those NCAA tournaments, his ability to knock down threes.
When we make this list in the ensuing years, I don't think there's any question. Lawyer will be on it. Asij will be on it. Those are really bright, young talents who have great futures. Big interview. She joins us now. Sarah, thanks for taking the time out. Congratulations on being named a big impact pioneer. What does this honor mean to you?
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I mean, it's absolutely such an honor. Going to Wisconsin, being able to play there for 4 years, seeing how many incredible athletes and Black athletes came before me is so inspiring. And so the fact that obviously the Big Ten is able to recognize me and, you know, what I'm doing on and off the ice is pretty special and something that is definitely very humbling.
You probably don't need me to tell you this, but you play a sport where there are not many people of color. In what way have you had to overcome stereotypes as a hockey player?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, I'm from Canada, and here I'm not going to say that there isn't racism in hockey, but it's very different. Everybody plays hockey here. And so coming down to the States and realizing that, you know, not everybody plays hockey. And so there are a lot of stereotypes around me, like being a girl, being a biracial female, you know, my socioeconomic class, about playing hockey. And so there are so many times during my college career that people didn't really understand it. People didn't get it. People were like, you're in Wisconsin. Are you okay? And so I think there were times that I have definitely experienced my fair share of, you know, racism and sexism, but that's something that I'm definitely looking to eradicate and make better for the next generation so that everybody feels welcome and feels like they can be a hockey player.
I want to get to some of that work that you're doing in a moment, but I want to back up a little bit and just, how did you get to Wisconsin? What made you decide to play college hockey in the United States?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a few influences who came before me. Obviously, my Uncle Donovan went to Syracuse, but it was really my Aunt Raquel. I was a baby when she was at Syracuse playing basketball there, and she was this like beautiful, intelligent woman who also was like a rock star on the court. And so she's somebody that I was able to look up to and be like, oh my gosh, like you can do it all. And so it was kind of the standard. A lot of people in my family had gone down and played Division I sports in the United States. And so for me, I recognized the opportunity that Wisconsin gave me, obviously being an incredible school, being a Big Ten school. I wanted that big athletic program and I wanted that, you know, huge academic presence as well. And so I wanted to go be a number, sit in a class of 400 people, and I got exactly what I wanted.
While you were there, you were left off of Canada's roster for the World Championships. And I know that was a real turning point in your career. How did that rejection fuel you?
Yeah, my first time making the senior national team was the Olympic team in 2018. And so throughout my entire college career, I was left off that roster for 4 years. And 2017 was the last one before the Olympics. And that was kind of the final straw for me, where I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to pay attention to Team Canada anymore. I'm just going to do me. I want to help my team try to win a national championship. And, I just put my head down and went to work because I wanted to bring a national championship home to Wisconsin. And unfortunately, my senior senior year, we fell a little short in the national championship game, but I played probably some of the best hockey that I've ever played in my life after being cut those 2 months. And so I definitely use that, I guess, failure in the moment to really motivate me and to become the best possible player and the best possible teammate that I could be.
What's your best memory as a Badger?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think I would say the first time we actually won a conference championship. We had come up short my freshman year, and going into my sophomore year, we weren't really sure. We had a good team, but we weren't really sure how we were going to do. And bringing home that conference championship just gave us all the confidence in the world. And I think it helped me and my class especially go through the next few years at Wisconsin, score a lot of big goals, beat a lot of big teams, have our border battles with Minnesota, being able to win those. And so I would definitely say that first conference championship, I think in 2014 or 2015 maybe, was definitely a highlight.
We mentioned in the vignette there all of the incredible athletes in your family, and you mentioned your aunt and uncle, including Donovan McNabb, Darnell Nurse, NHL player who people who follow hockey certainly know, Kia Nurse, who's had a really good career in the WNBA. I mean, the list just kind of goes on and on. Your dad was a phenomenal athlete as well. Who are your role models as an athlete?
Yeah, I think for me, being a little girl who played hockey, I didn't get to see women who played hockey very often. And so as an adult now, I definitely look to people like Cassie Campbell and Jana Hefford, who are Canadian legends, who, you know, are broadcasters now, who are head of the PWHPA, or on the Hockey Canada board. And so using their voice and evolving from being a player to giving back and impacting the hockey community. But again, my aunt was a huge one, played at Syracuse. I definitely am able to look at my cousin Kia and see how much of a rock star she is and what she was able to do at UConn before she was at UConn, and obviously now in the WNBA, going into a season with her new team in Seattle. And so I have a lot of strong females to be able to look up to.
You've had some really amazing things happen to you. I mean, as I was kind of reading about you and preparing for this interview, I mean, you were on the cover of a Cheerios box, which I think is incredible. You were on the EA Sports game, as was mentioned in the vignette. The Tim Hortons doll, I mean, you have a Barbie doll that is modeled after you. Is there one of those? Are there any of those where you're like, wow, this is really incredible?
I definitely made sure that the Cheerios box was multi-grain because that was the only way that my grandma would buy them. But I definitely think that the Barbie doll with Mattel and Tim Hortons was probably one of the most meaningful to me personally, because growing up, I always had this like paradox that I wanted to be athletic and strong and play hockey, but I also wanted to play Barbies and wear dresses. And that was just something that those worlds never collided. And so for me to see like an athletic, let alone a hockey playing Barbie doll, would have been like a game changer, life changing for me as a young girl. And so that was a pretty cool one. And the response from that was incredible. But obviously the EA cover is huge because you're able to inspire the next gen. And that's not only little girls, but that's also boys as well. I have boys who stop me on the street, who stop me in hockey arenas, who want to talk hockey with me because, you know, I'm in a position of power. I'm a professional hockey player. And so just seeing that tide kind of change has been really meaningful and impactful. And I hope that it just continues for generations to come.
I thought the campaign around the Barbie doll was really cool, this You Can Be Anything campaign. And you mentioned it. Look, I do think it's different in Canada. Clearly it is. The kind of culture around hockey is very different than it is in the United States. But that being said, it's still somewhat of an unusual path. So who encouraged you that you could be not just a hockey player, but a great hockey player, a world-class hockey player?
Yeah, it was definitely my dad. He is the one who put me on skates the first time when I was 3 years old. He loved hockey. He never got to play. His parents immigrated from the Caribbean when he was a child. And so they didn't really know much about hockey, about Canada. So he never got to play. And so he really instilled that love and passion through me into my game. And he was the one who told me, like, this can take you places. You know what, you may not be the best hockey player in the world. You may not play on Team Canada one day, but this can open up so many doors for you and so many opportunities and so many relationships. And he understood the value that sports had with girls and with women. You know, it builds so many different skills as you grow up. And so not only was he like, you don't have to play hockey for the hockey's sake. There are so many different things that sports can give to you. But as I grew up and I was good at the sport, he really pushed me and said, if you want to be the best hockey player in the world, if you want to be at the Olympics on Team Canada, if you want to play pro, you can do all of those things. And so I definitely have so much credit to give to my dad. And I'm so grateful for what he was able to do for me.
Well, you weren't just at the Olympics and on Team Canada. As it turned out last winter, you set the record for the most points ever in an Olympic Games. What did that accomplishment mean to you, kind of, especially in light of those early snubs by Team Canada to lead them to a gold medal and to be front and center, the biggest star in this Olympiad?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because going into the Olympics in 2022, my only expectations for myself was to actually be on the ice. I was coming off of an injury. I tore my MCL in October. And so I hadn't played hockey in like 3 or 4 months. My first game in 3 months was at the Olympics. And so for me, I was like, I just want to be on the ice and make an impact however I can. And I was fortunate enough to, have a hot stick. I was able to find my teammates. I was able to score some goals and play with some pretty good players. Our team set a bunch of records. We had 3 or 4 girls who also got individual records throughout the tournament. But we scored 57 goals, which was another record. And so our team was firing on all cylinders. And it was just an honor, obviously, to be able to represent my country and then bring a gold medal back home after it being on the other side of the border for a couple of years.
To what extent have the opportunities professionally for women in hockey changed here in the last few years? Give people a sense of what you're doing professionally right now.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the PWHPA, which is the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, and we formed our association out of our league actually folding 4 years ago. And what we recognized was there was a very big disparity in how women's professional hockey was. And so obviously what we're trying to do right now is create a sustainable hockey league where women are compensated to play hockey and make a livable wage. But the biggest thing is that professional atmosphere that we want to create. We want to make sure that girls can play hockey until they're 40 years old if they want to, because they have the staff around them, they have the resources, they have the support, first class travel, whether it's like the medical staff or equipment staff, there's people in the C-suite, marketing, all of those facets that create a professional environment, just like you see in the NHL, just like you see in the NBA, NFL, college sports now, is pretty impactful. And so that's what we're trying to create for women's hockey. And it's definitely coming, and we're very excited about it.
Sarah, we started this interview talking about your role as a pioneer, and I do want to ask you just a little bit about your time on campus. You spoke up after a racial incident on campus when you were in Madison. Even after your time, after the George Floyd murder, you were very outspoken in talking about racial issues. How have you tried to use your platform for issues you believe in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's been an evolution for sure. At Wisconsin, during my time there, I definitely lent on a bunch of my friends who were Black athletes because I didn't really know how to navigate the space. I didn't really know how to use my voice just yet. And so I look at some of my friends who play basketball, Jordan Hill, Nigel Hayes, Daria Agumbawali on the football team, who I was able to lean on and talk to about these things while I was at Wisconsin. And those are people who have had a profound impact on me. And then for me to lend my voice to, Badgers now, after I've left, and be able to connect with them, whether it's, Shayla or Layla Edwards, who are on the hockey team now, who are both incredible athletes, has been something that I take a lot of pride in. But it's been an evolution, and it's not something that I was always comfortable with. It's something that I had to find within myself and kind of empower myself and say, you have an experience, you can speak to things, you can reach an audience that may not have been reachable before. There aren't a lot of Black people in hockey, and that's something that I had to realize, and that's something that I realized that my voice was important and influential, and it could reach people who had really never had to deal with the issue of racism, who had never had to talk about it, who had never maybe had to see it or really understand it. And so that's something that I definitely take a lot of pride in.
As well you should. Let me leave you with this. What's next? What do the next few years look like here for you?
Oh, goodness. That's the question. I, I definitely want to continue playing hockey. I would love to be able to go back to another Olympics. 2026, it's in Italy. I would love to have my family there because they weren't able to come to Beijing, obviously. Hopefully be playing pro in a pro league in the next few months here would be amazing. But I just want to have an impact in the game however I can. And I've always said that I want to leave hockey in a better place than what I got it in. And yes, scoring big goals, winning big championships is a ton of fun. But I think that my impact off of the ice is what's going to be the biggest thing and my biggest legacy and what I can do for the sport. And so I'm looking to do a lot off of the ice through different programs and mentorship. And so I think the sky's the limit, and I'm excited for the future.
Excited to see what it holds for you as well. Sarah, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking so much time out to speak with us. Again, congratulations on this honor and on all of your accomplishments.
Thank you guys so much.